Well, if you really like a movie, you've got to binge watch it 7 times or more. And we're on. A very unwise individual, I have to say. An individual who thinks he's very wise, but really, not so much.
An individual that is so wise that he is unwise in his wiseness.
Okay, now you're just being a bitch. Anyway, so welcome to episode 2. Our topics for today include the state of cinema and Tarkovsky's Stalker, the movie. And you want what? Yeah, we'll get into that later. And so the third topic we chose, hip-hop in everyday life. Prevalence of hip-hop everywhere. It's everywhere. Okay. Shut up.
That was
a bad impression, huh? Get good. Get good. Get good, dude. Anyway, so, all right.
Okay, so how would you tell me what made you want to discuss?
Well, first of all, I've seen it yesterday for maybe the 4th time. My life. It's actually funny. The guys I was watching it with, they asked me how many times I watched it, and I thought about it for a second. I said 4 times, which I would think is pretty impressive for a movie like that. But then the feedback I got was, well, if you really like a movie, you've got to binge watch it 7 times or more. It's not that kind of movie. It's the kind of movie that you watch, it changes something in your life, and then you can't watch it again right after because your whole world was turned upside down, and then you wait, and then the next time you watch it, it changes something else.
Yeah, the thing is about this movie is that taking your world upside down is quite a heavy experience. It's not something you can enjoy on a daily basis. It's even if it's not been long enough since you watched this movie, it can even think that it's threatening into getting into watching it again.
And yes. And on top of that, if you watch it too early or too many times, it will detract from the effect that it gave you the first time you watched it, or the second or third. Like you watch it a second time too fast, and then you start to think all kinds of stuff that really is not necessary, finding all kinds of little flaws, and that's not the point. No, but we are familiar. Oh yeah, but think about it this way: we're familiar with the effect of watching a movie, and then you watch it again, and you start noticing all kinds of stuff that you didn't notice the first time, and it detracts from the initial experience, but there's no real positive that's coming from you realizing all this little stuff. It's you only notice it because like it's the second time of you watching and you paid attention to the important stuff, but now you're not paying attention to it. So anyway, so how would you say that this movie is different than typical movies? How would you generally describe it?
Okay, so actually we like kind of a video talking about this movie, and the thing that stands out, like, or like a very general to me, is that this movie is like it's not a really moving in terms of there's one things to listen to another thing, and there's like a minor minutes. This movie is basically this one like this one thing. It provides like in its entirety, in its artistic value. It becomes this, I would say, resistance that becomes something very different than what other movies. And basically, it's hard to talk about this movie when I didn't try to not analyze it too much or talk about it too much, like any specifics.
No, but dude, I think you're losing the question. So we're trying to generally identify how it differs from other cinema and other typical movies. Well, I think obviously it's way slower. It's like significantly slower than most of the movies out there, you know? No, dude, it's pretty slow. It's like no, dude, I don't mean when I say slow, I don't mean like in the positive or negative sense, like intense or not intense. It just literally means that the movie is way slower paced than any other movie that you typically watch. I mean, I think you just said that other movies are art. I think a majority of the movies we're used to are more, like on the scale, are more tilted towards entertainment than art. Yeah, so this is definitely art. The other stuff is entertainment, and they care about entertaining you in whatever way possible. Yeah, so I guess that's a big difference.
It's not something that tries to entertain, but
it's trying to make you think. It makes you reflect, engage your head.
but I think something which is maybe we should talk about it later, discuss it later, but it's not like something which is top abstract that you can not enjoy in any way but analyze it. You know, like there are pieces of art that are, complete,
Like neutral.
This
Yeah.
is not
But it's not just gears in the logical sense. It's also engaging your emotion and engaging your thought by engaging your deepest levels of experience that goes towards your emotional and like psychological experience.
Like it actually like many levels. Like I've seen some, movies that are kind of like there are places in a gallery or a museum and it does not connect on any emotional level. But this movie is genius in the way that it connects to you on so many levels that you kind of can see yourself in it and in the plot and the characters, I think every person takes himself in one of the characters.
I'm not sure it's this kind of movie. I think it's more about it has certain themes and is seeing yourself, I would say, in a sense of you come into direct interactions with things in their purest form of idea. Okay, like you see an image, and it's even though it's a very specific scene, the intention behind, or at least the vibe of the movie, makes it so that the scene is transformed into its purest idea form, and that idea form is like your personal, because it's your experience, like you seeing it through your own eyes.
So basically, that's the deeper part of the movie, but I think that also it connects to genres as well. Again, it's not completely abstract. You can find yourself in the characters. You can, it does suck you in through some interesting plot things.
Yeah.
The premise is quite interesting. So there's this very distinct atmosphere, this part that makes you sucked in. But the most interesting thing, like you said, about the ideas and its purest forms. So this movie is talking about things that are so abstract and so pure, at least try to portray them in such a pure way that it's not possible to discuss them with words.
Yeah.
Exactly. This thing, that's thing that genius.
But at the same time, there's a good combination between being political and being philosophical. There's many interactions within the movie that are very strictly philosophical, but bordering on the poetical.
So basically, the interactions might be philosophical or poetic, but truly like the bigger picture that it's the accumulation of things in the flow. And basically projects ideas not through dialogue or not through one scene or two, but basically Tarkovsky takes ahead a trip that through direction and through the form, through everything, he basically makes us go inside ourselves. This movie is an amazing bit like almost
Hypnotizes us?
Yeah, like he takes us to like deeper level without
It's a meditative movie. It's slow paced. It's ambient music. It's slow scenes, slow shots. Emphasizes on certain like on mise en scène and on the scene, on the image, on you playing with color and the different vibes you get from different color schemes.
It's like there's free, but then basically if you even select, if you even have the slightest ability to understand and see those kind of things inside yourselves, you will be living there. Like basically there's a point in the movie that you understand where everyone stands now and where everything takes place and what does like pretty much what kind of direction it took. Like basically when the movie becomes tough, you're watching the place.
Yeah. So there's some continuity or some connection between the developments in the plot and in the like internal spiritual state and the aesthetical developments that we see on screen.
Yes. Obviously, there is a continuity. It's not the kind of movie that, again, it does not discuss anything. Not for its visual, like not for one visual point or another. It's in its entirety, everything together. It's the director makes us know to pretty distinct place. Okay? Like, I do not think there's one way to.
What do you mean when you say that there's no single point throughout the movie? I mean, the way I saw it yesterday is that I did see distinct ideas being represented. Maybe they're not necessarily like directed at a certain like point or like made to have meaning, like you see this, therefore I don't know, the plot is going there, or like I don't know, something of that sort.
I think that every big percentage of those distinct ideas would not be recognizable in those scenes if put by themselves in no context.
What do you mean?
I think many of the scenes that portray distinct ideas, if you were not put in a certain sequence, that has like a continuity of the plot and what they're doing in this movie, they would be too much not to be interpreted by us.
And look, dude, the movie has a sequence. Like it does things tie, like one thing ties to the next thing, but it makes a much less effort to tell a very specific storyline, as opposed to making it a lot more open to interpretation.
Like, pretty much in its story, it makes its point. It doesn't make a specific point, but it takes you to a specific zone.
And
It's not a point, it's an spectrum of point.
yeah, for sure. But it does have some certain themes that it focuses on. Like it's not too much of a spectrum. There is a theme, there is characters, and these characters represent certain themes, and the way they interact between each other, they also represent certain themes. but you can definitely see a lot because it's very open. Anyway, so let's kind of connect that to the general state of the cinema nowadays. I think that movie is from the 1970s.
Yeah, so basically, to me, this movie is like the perfect combination between entertainment and artistic. So,
No, dude, I don't know. I wouldn't call this movie as like entertainment at all. Like this movie is not trying to entertain you.
well,
If you're entertained, it's a byproduct. It's not the aim.
in the last I watched movies that are completely artistic, like, not completely artistic. And like Stalker is it does have entertainment. Like
I disagree, dude.
he just okay. Tarkovsky would not make so much effort in this intriguing background and premise if he did not want there to be any entertainment in it. I think there would not be entertainment for a person that does not like political philosophy.
No, but dude, the background is meant to set up a scene of interacting ideas. It's not meant as let's just make it like intriguing or suspenseful. I mean, there's elements of suspense, but I think they're byproducts. I don't think they're necessarily even the aim, you know? There's suspense, but he's not trying to entertain you with the suspense necessarily. He's trying to create an environment.
It does want to create an environment, but the environment is very interesting. Like it's too interesting to be a byproduct. But I think the amount of emphasis on atmosphere, dialogue, suspense, and generally let's say the effect and world building are just
Okay, then I guess we have to make a distinction at what point it becomes entertainment. I think it becomes entertainment at the point where it exists, where an element in, for example, a movie exists for like no real reason other than adding to the entertainment value. I think that's the point where it's. I mean, if it serves, if the ambience serves the meditative vibe and the meditative ambience of the movie, then I mean, it's art. It's not entertainment.
let's say that if we have just this, so one is for artistic value, one is for the entertainment value, then I would say that artistically wise this movie is about like 8 or 7.5, and entertainment wise it's about 2 to 3.
I mean, maybe, but dude, I think like it's really hard to make the distinction, but there should be a distinction between entertainment as a byproduct and entertainment as the aim, or like this stuff was put together with the aim of entertainment, you know?
I don't think there were things that did not have any value except for entertainment, but I think it's very important because Tarkovsky is trying to reach his own film levels. I saw something tonight about the movie was this particular guy, and this guy is like the one in the entertainment scheme, and it's a fucking
Dude, by the way, I mean, I guess the reason why I'm like keep talking about it is because I'm trying to say that I think there is a point where things that would we would interpret as intrigue, like not intrigue, but as intriguing and as suspenseful, and all this stuff that we usually see in like entertainment pieces. I think this stuff can be used, or at least if the purely artistic piece is put together with enough, like how should I put it, like not sensical elements, but elements that are tied to like less abstract and more like reality, okay, that catches your attention, creates suspense and stuff like that, then I think the entertainment becomes a byproduct. But it's still not an 8. It's more towards like a 9 or maybe even a 10 in terms of artistic purity.
For me, entertainment is not necessarily something that like you feel like fun or something like that. It's something that is interesting. I would say entertainment is something that makes you interested. Like this is what entertainment is for me. But I mean interested not from like deeper, psychological, like kind of philosophical level, but I mean interested in more than like a person that like day-to-day life interested.
Yeah, so there's an interesting line there.
Yeah, so I think there's just a difference between the way I see entertainment and the way you do.
So let's try to talk like to start tying it a little bit to our other topic about the general state of the cinema, like this distinction between entertainment and art.
Wait, I want to ask you something. What do you think about the movies, the popular movies, or generally like any movie that came out in the last few years? What is something that you're interested in that just popular
I mean, let me think. Specifically, that came out in the last few years. Came out in the last few years. I'm having a hard time to think of something, to be honest. What stuff came out in the last couple of years? Let's. Oh, Wonder Woman. Okay. Recent. I'm just looking it up real quick. Recent movies. Okay.
What did you think about the Joker?
I didn't like it. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Dude.
Like, the way it was decent, it was like a 7 out of 10 movie.
Dude, how was it a 7 out of 10? I mean, the movie is making a feeble attempt at being psychological and deep. No, dude, it's a feeble attempt. Dude.
I think that I don't think the movie has anything deep inside. I think that
It's basically a cliche clown movie that's with a high budget and with people trying to be deep.
no, I don't think so. I think that the actor Joaquin Phoenix portrayed like a person with a psychological problem incredibly. Like it was probably one of the better acting performances I've ever seen.
Dude, I thought the exact opposite. I thought it was cliche as heck. Like, especially that part, the worst part was where he was sitting for that interview and then he starts, like, I don't know, laughing maniacally or something like that, or like killing somebody. I don't remember what it was exactly. But, dude, it's like, it's a typical cliche, like a decent guy who's a clown, has a hard life, and then he slowly loses it and starts murdering people and laughing maniacally, and everything in the end burns. Like, come on, dude.
But he's insane from the first movies. He does not have. His life does not get worse.
Oh, dude, it does. That's the point.
No, which really doesn't. His life just is horrible from the first place. He's just an insane person. And he stays without it. And like they exactly say about the performance is a lot of details and the facial expressions and like his looks and his gestures.
I guess the problem isn't with his acting, it's with the directing and the general idea of the movie. Because sure, maybe his performance is all right. It didn't struck me as that like mind blowing, because just simply because the role is kind of simple. I mean, in my opinion, like he's not playing a very deep character. He's just playing a clown whose life is being a bitch to him, and he needs to slowly play from like an innocent, neutral, kind of sad character to being less and less neutral and more like towards like edgy and dark and depressed and maniacal and sociopathic. But
I think we agree that most characters in general in cinema in the last few dozens of years, especially in American cinema, are so shallow that like I would say this is a character that is fictional, but I would say on the better like side of the spectrum in terms of details, which is played by an actor that is in complete control of his body gestures, expressions, body language, little details, and is really impressive.
I don't know, dude. I think the role's kind of easy. He's not a very deep character, and like his emotional progression, at least the way I see it, is kind of simple, and there's nothing really to figure out.
Even though it's first of all, it's not simple because it would still be more complicated than I would say 95% of the characters in cinema.
But you have to. You said it. But you said it yourself. Like if the standard is the floor, then obviously it's gonna be impressive compared to like a floor level standard. But I mean, if you look at it at a real scale, like with like 8 to 10 being like stuff like Stalker and like real movies, I mean, most superhero movies would probably be between the 2 and the 4, and this one would be, in my opinion, between 3 and 5.
I would say it this way. My scale is quite. If it does not cross the 5, then it's not worth the watch. Like, I think that if it's not better than a 5, it's not at least a 5.5.
I don't think that movie is worth a watch. Honestly, I wouldn't rewatch it again. If I could go back in time and tell myself to watch or not to watch the movie, I would say like this. Look, if you really want to look at like visual effects and how people use like color schemes and color effects, then sure, watch it. But if you're looking for plot, for ideas, even for acting, like don't even bother.
Dude, it's literally, she's probably one of the best actors of all time. I'm not even kidding.
Dude, you gotta rewatch the movie.
Dude, I once with Dal and another time with Jim.
You watched it with me?
Yeah,
When did we watch it?
we watched it together. When in your parents' house.
Do you remember how I reacted to it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
No, it's
I was impressed by the visual work, like whoever was the person who was in charge of like selecting the colors and making the image look good and interesting and fresh and high quality. He did a good job. But aside from that, the themes sucked. Like they were so bad.
dude, I don't think it sucked very much. Like, it was it's a thing that is cliche, but the idea almost never actually gets into, like, never gets done. Like, yeah, it's not something that is ideally different than what on the spectrum of things relatively, but it's not like this exact thing was done before. So,
Dude, I personally have done the same exact thing in my like film school class. And I mean, obviously it wasn't anywhere as high budget or as long, but basically I can show you if you there. Where'd you go?
yeah,
Sure. Basically, I personally created the same exact video, much shorter, much simpler, but with the same exact idea. And I acted the clown in that video. It was like a school project, and the role was so easy. It was honestly super easy. Obviously, I wasn't on the level of the movie, but like this idea is just something like any film student would come up with. Such a basic idea. Like, you know what's creepy and people don't like? Clowns. And you know what clowns?
generally, you have like some sort of dispositions like towards the idea. I think objectively, it's more original than like almost all of the movies that came out in the last 10 or 20 years.
It's more what? Psychological? Original?
More original.
Maybe a tiny bit, but not significantly.
Yes, a tiny bit, plus like it looks visually really good. The actor is again. When I look at the actor, I do a psychoanalysis of like body language, of facial expressions, of everything, and like the little details. Those are the things that are of interest to me.
Yeah, I mean,
And he
I don't remember it all that well. I don't remember.
there is no, like, psychologically speaking, you would analyze him exactly the way he performs. Like, this is a dude that did a good job for the film.
Sure, but I think that's maybe I'll give it to you, even though at some points I thought it was really bad, like specifically the character, and I don't know if you can blame the actor, but just the I think the director is to blame, honestly. Like just the idea was crap. And anyway, so let's talk about the general state of the cinema. So sure, you have like this movie that's a tiny bit psychological, but I mean, I don't know, dude. Like every
It's not psychological, it's not like psychological, like, actual psychology. It's like, it's technically psychological because it's things have to do with things.
Nah, but I mean, I was gonna. I'm not. I don't know. I just feel like, was it a good movie? I just felt like it's not even not even really worth a watch.
Like, okay, it's not on the level of things like Tarkovsky, Fellini, Zaharoff.
It's probably like a decent level documentary with nice structure to it, with some humor.
No, not really humor. And
Not
it's
humor.
not exactly documentary. It's like pretty entertaining and high quality. Like, it's pretty high quality. So, again, like, you're missing. Look, the thing is, the amount of movies I would actually like objectively define as like 7.5 or higher is almost nothing. I can't. Like, you can't
That's so sad.
judge everything. I can't judge all the different movies by like maybe ranking movies.
Dude, I mean, I think you would be. I mean, honestly, I think we would both be surprised what movies can pass the 6 and the 7. I think I watched this one movie. I think its name was Downsizing or something like that. Let's see. It's about this guy who has, if I'm not mistaken, some like a some typical life issues, and basically decides to quit the normal world and to go through some kind of a process of becoming miniature, and then being placed in a town that's miniature with other people who chose to become miniature, and everything becomes way cheaper and way more accessible because like you're miniature, and and everything's super available, and like your car is basically like a toy, and you live in a like a utopian world. But then it kind of goes into all kinds of themes, and it combines humor and like narrative plot and like psychological themes through like its presentation that bring it over the 6 and maybe even over the 7.
Like, again, over 7 on like the objective scale, like the universal objective scale.
I would say like if we judge every movie by one scale for artistic value and one scale for entertainment value, I would say on the artistic it would be maybe a 5 or a 6. Okay, which is pretty good for a movie that has a high entertainment value. And I think the entertainment value is like a 7.
Yeah, like one of the best movies I grew in a long time is this documentary made by a film student in a like student in an experimental student film festival. And yeah, like it was about like entertainment level 2 was like I don't know, probably like a 6, and artistically wise it was like a 4 or 5, but like together I would say like I give it like 6.5, 7.
Dude, I think in terms of scales, I think we have 3 options. The first one is to judge it by the artistic value alone. The second by entertainment value, and the third is by would I watch this movie value? Like, is this movie worth a watch value?
Well, I think like artistic and entertainment value does not needs to be summarized to how good it is. I think artistic is 10 in artistic value is better than 9 in artistic value.
No, but we're not, dude. We're not talking about better or worse. We're just saying the artistic value in general. Like what's, you know.
The 10 rank system is how good it is, but
Not necessarily.
rank system and the entertainment system is just for how much it is, and that's it.
No, dude. I think how good it is that exactly that third value of is it worth a watch? Yeah.
But basically it was like a 6 or 5 in the artistic, like a 4 or 5 in the, it was like a 4 in the artistic, like a 6 on the entertainment, and I would give it like a 6.5 or 7 on how good it is. Okay, it was for me.
Do you remember the name of that movie?
Okay, it's called Uncharted.
Let's see real quick. Uncurable.
I think in Hebrew it's called JD&J.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to post a link for it. So let's move on to our last topic because we're nearing the 1 hour mark. So last topic, we're gonna talk about hip hop.
Wait. Not the last topic. Let's just want to conclude this. Like, how bad is the state of cinema and
Dude, I think it's pretty messed up. It's completely messed up. I mean, cinema used to be something people looked up to, and they were like, "Wow, this guy is a movie maker. Like, he's got like deep ideas going on in his head, and he's trying to like make people engage their head and become more complex or like look at things differently." But nowadays, it's about just how much adrenaline you can pump into people in a certain amount of time, and that sucks. You know.
like,
Because the more adrenaline you pump, the more money you get at the box office.
the thing is, it's like people in like student film festivals can make really cool stuff, and it means there are people capable and there are people actually doing impressive movies. But the question is, where are they and how do we find them?
Yep.
And that's a big problem because I think what was mainstream in the 70s was, like you said, like things that actually make you think, things that are actually impressive, things that are actually have anything to do with your capabilities as a director. But now it's just adrenaline rush. So
Pretty much, yeah. Dude, it's gotten to the point where honestly, I think when most people would sit down to see a movie that's not an adrenaline rush, they won't understand what they're watching. Like, how is this even a movie?
yeah, people are capable of actually writing movies.
It's not even that they're not capable, it's that it just there's so little of it in circulation that the exposure to it is so small that people just don't understand that movies are capable of more than just this typical adventure, like adrenaline adventure that they experience.
It's so far back. Like it's serious. And I think the problem is even the people being able to make good movies. I think people are still making good movies. I think just the society is so fucked up that they're just not circulating anymore.
Yeah. Um, Dude, but it's not just movies. I think it's when it comes to all other kinds of intellectual discourse and intellectualism in general. It's, it's kind of quiet. It's kind of dead, and this is despite the channels of communication being so open and so accessible. But like most of the discourse is pretty much like either primitive or dead. I mean, stuff exists out there and it's ramping up, and there are people who start putting out ideas, putting out like communication, but it's way smaller than what it should be, maybe.
It seems like intellectualism became something very niche, while the other things, the more general things are available and are seen everywhere, became much in shock. It seems like that
Dude, I think it's
circles emotion it does not have the same.
I think a lot of it is also just being a product of our times, because we live at a time where the internet is not even that old, and YouTube is younger, and podcasting is even younger. But at the same time, I think with the advent of technology and stuff like that, people started like this culture of getting your smarts from books and trying to how should I put it, like be an intellectual person through engaging literature and engaging discussions over that literature. I think it lessened, and now it's transforming. Like in this moment, exactly in time, it's transforming. I think books went down, and the ability to communicate through stuff like podcasts and stuff like that is just now developing. So we live at this strange like intermediary period.
Like the question for me is, will intellectualism, like having comics soon be seen as cool again in society? It seems like being intellectual is just not cool.
It's not about being cool. It's about being revered and respected and prized.
It's always it's the same thing or simplifying it. When we intellectually have a topic being prized and respected again.
Probably when like people make it come back by engaging in it.
I think that
Like people need role models. I think a lot of the, how should I put it, the things that become prevalent depend on trends that individuals set, and then people follow. Like people flow with a certain something that somebody set, and if it's set in a particular way, people flow along with that, and then it becomes a major thing, a major movement. But to yeah,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
What we have to say that I think that in a historical sense, and later more deterministic, I think that there are certain like things, factors in reality that people do not actually take much choice or do not actually affect that much. I think that like intellectualism will come back whenever it's basic information will feel like instinctively that stupidity is prevailing, and it will feel like need the fatal attributes. And if you ask yourself, how do you know?
Honestly, I think we're there. I think people feel it. They just, I mean, it's kind of like the same issue we discussed about the movie, like people just not knowing what movies are capable of. I think it's just the same thing. Just people, especially young people that have less years of experience living, there's just certain things that they're not aware of their extent of possibility, including intellectualism. They're still formulating what intellectualism is.
Like the thing that worries me is the tendency for popular culture, popular music. Remember, we wanted to talk about hip hop in
Yeah, sure.
culture. And it gets me back to that because essentially, so on one hand, it feels like people are there. Like they feel there's too much stupidity we need to make intellectually reckoning. And on the other hand, it feels like certain aspects, certain tendencies of society are getting only worse and worse. So I would say
Because it's profitable.
yeah.
It's profitable.
I think that what's profitable is very dynamic. So the question is, why doesn't thanks return for the worse? Like, why the things
Because it's much easier. It's because it's much easier to capitalize on shallow and simple negative sentiment, most often negative, than on actually developing like complex thought and complex analysis and solutions. And it's also much easier to brand this sentiment and to package it into cultural like stuff, like say music or whatever products, and then sell it. It's easier to do it when the sentiment and the ideas are simple and easily like made into slogans and easily made into acceptable common sense sentiment, than if you actually try to engage the masses in like a thought process that's a little bit more complex.
I think it's more than that because I think it's also the reason it keeps playing those certain tentacles are getting even worse is because they are also connected and sold as politics. But I think a lot of those tendencies in popular culture is connected to very progressive politics that are being sold to us, and they are sold because they are very easy to understand. I think what you said is very important towards politics, and when things like music and movies are sold as politics, it becomes much easier. And for example, when movies like Stalker are sold as feminism, people for some reason think it's not what is a piece of culture and change.
Because I'll tell you what I just realized. So they say that art is downstream of politics or something like this, or culture is downstream of politics. No, politics. Is it politics downstream of culture, or culture downstream of politics? Well, I feel like, at least in our current environment, culture is downstream of politics. And I think that politics is downstream of certain base ideologies, perspectives, and values. And this is why when people see some feminist whatever like in a movie, this feminist like character and stuff reflects certain values that sure they're expressed in politics, but really they go even deeper into like some basic ideologies, perspectives, and values.
I think that people do not even with the difference do not even understand what is actually political and what is not political anymore. And I think that so much things are being forcibly connected to politics these days that people do not even see the difference anymore. For example, in university, one of the courses we were asked how do we define politics, and only two questions about 150, 170 people defined politics correctly instead of offering such an idea that politics are
Supposed to play. Dude, I think actually it's an interesting question. I would say that the role of politics is to take, or at least the function of politics is to take ideology and the deep sentiment and to transform it into enforcement and, in other words, into actuation. So like you bring it into fruition, like whatever ideology, whatever perspectives you have. It's just an instrument.
Yeah, so I think today politics have too much to do with activism. I think that today any kind of activism is seen as politics. Basically, no matter how popular or what you believe in, as long as you're into activism, it makes you contribute to politics. And you know, do the right thing, but people get the nerve.
I guess become a thinker, like become a analyst.
Yeah, exactly. Like how do you become an activist to be actually analyze things and understand?
Dude,
We talked to this, to this very famous activist that likes very big left-wing political protests on Tel Aviv and the center of the country. And we started talking. And at some point, she said that the country is socialistic. And I asked her what does she define as socialism, and she could not define socialism. She defined capitalism as socialism. And when I defined what socialism has been saying, then she said that what the fuck are you talking about? What is it?
oh seriously.
I did not even know what is socialism and what the fuck she was talking about. Even though she's one of the biggest, the main figures of protesting in Israel.
Yeah. I think it ties to a couple of things. Like first of all, that as I said, politics is an instrument for action, meaning that activism literally is the function of politics. Like the reason politics exists is to bring ideas into action. But the issue with that is that without the proper input of high quality, like if you input garbage ideas, you're gonna output garbage action. And the thing is, nowadays people really encourage action, but they don't seem to encourage like more like thinktivism, like being active with your head. Like they're saying be active with your actions, but they don't say be active with your head.
And like what you feel, like what you associate with a society that puts activism before like animalism and generally like political thinking, like without necessarily activism, is a society that like is almost Nazi, like is almost a nationalistic society. Isn't that how that started back in like Germany in like the 1910s and 20s?
Yeah, I think the situation is quite different. I mean, it's kind of it's a topic of its own. But maybe we'll go into a next different time. So just real quick, we're gonna talk about hip hop real quick. So and we began opening up the meat of the conversation, but specifically about hip hop. What was it that you wanted to bring up?
I said we should play the song with let me Google this incredible piece of art. This gives me hope in humanity.
Hey, just say the name of the song. Don't actually play it.
Cardi B, Wet Ass Pussy.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've seen that one. Yeah, it's bad, dude. It's really bad. I think it's the, if I'm not mistaken, it's that music video where she's trying to be feminist or something like that, but while objectifying herself and like being completely I'm like slutty and inappropriate, basically.
Like, for some reason, it seems like it's supposed to empower women.
Yeah.
It's like they want sex. Like if women want sex and they're open about it, it's supposed to like empower them. Like if they say like, fuck me right now, I'm in control, and that's empowerment. And I think it's such a shallow concept. It's such a bad excuse of what empowerment should be. Generally, like, it seems to me like people would be just needing a friend and this kind of art, this kind of.
Look, I just think it's disingenuous. I think Cardi B knows what she's doing. Her product is basically selling sex, and she knows it. I mean, if she doesn't, she at least somebody else around her knows, and she probably realizes on some level. And she does that. She just rebranded it to meet certain ideological common sentiments that happen to be present nowadays.
Yeah. Basically, it's just like the next steps that violence and drugs are just being represented as politics, and it's supposed to make everything fine. Like today, politics is the way to sell sex and drugs and violence. So,
yeah, and for a very high return. Like these people get a high return. They win elections. They manipulate public sentiment and public effort and public action, and it's a lot of power and it's a lot of gain to be made from acting the way they act over there.
It's this kind of stuff. We kind of think reality in which, fucking and violence was represented as good political things and seen as deep and, you know, just think that possible. How do you fucking try to
come back from that. I mean, I think you have to remember that, sure, maybe the elites and the people who have to who are going to gain from this promotion of this stuff, sure, they are vocal and they are gonna make some kind of a general feeling that it's accepted, but at the same time, I think the majority of people, or at least like people, first of all, I don't think we're alone when we're just not the vocal majority. Like I think a lot of people look at it and just like we react to it, they react to it in a similar way. They say, wow, like we really need something that's better than this. The only problem is, like, there isn't necessarily something that's as distributed and as much in the spotlight as that garbage.
Definitely, even like to me, the scarier thing is the amount of people I would like say are like do have potential and are writing to the action that buy into that shit and
Yeah, I mean, people buy into the shit. I think common sentiment and the branding and presentation and spotlights are not to be underestimated. But I think with the increase of the ability of people to communicate, the potential for the spotlight, basically, it's less centralized with the internet and with YouTube and with podcasting, just like we do right now. Like people can express ideas and express sentiment and put spotlight on something different than what the elites and what the mainstream outlets are trying to spotlight. And we can fight against that garbage, basically.
Let's finish the podcast on this positive note.
But hopeful note. Yeah. Let's finish with a word of hope. What? Ta-na, na, 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 na. Oh yeah, that's the updated US anthem. Just kidding. Dude, somebody's gonna watch this and be like, "Oh, these are Russian spies." I know people who would be like that.
Okay, so
We don't. Dude, I don't think. Wait, so about the closing sequence, we only have an opening sequence at this point, and so yeah. Yep. All right.